Hey guys, welcome to Changing Business Culture. I'm Josh Muirhead. Now, this is part one of two parts of the interview with Mitch from the Art of Marketing Conference. Enjoy. All right, so hey everyone, welcome to Changing Business Culture, the
Where do you
video
look? Do you
blog.
look in the
Yeah,
eyesight,
right
or
here.
do you,
Yeah, and I'm standing with Mitch, author of Six Pixels of Separation, and his business is Twist Image, based out of Montreal. So, Mitch, this is the Changing Business Culture video blog. Mitch
Hello, changing culture, business people.
So, just had a great opportunity just to listen to Mitch. So, if you could maybe divulge maybe a little tidbits of what you just spoke upon and some of the
No,
stuff.
they have to come and see me. I'm not going to do that.
All
I mean, look, ultimately, my message is really about how the web has really changed the way we market and communicate. I mean, look at this. You've got your own show.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
absolutely.
You have your own show.
Absolutely.
That's nuts. And so, what happens in a world where we're all connected? What happens in a world where everybody can be a publisher? How do we transcend marketing and communications and advertising as we know it from a world where people aren't connected and aren't sharing to a world where they absolutely are? And so, I sort of like to say my presentation is like a bit of a flashlight on the space.
On the space.
Where it's not the strobe light, it's not it's a flashlight. It's like, look, there's a direction here, there's a shift in the space. Businesses, brands have to get smarter at understanding what these communication channels mean. And so, in 60 minutes, I can't do much other than go like, blah, 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 and then blah, and then,
Yeah.
Then
everyone's like, yeah, it feels so good.
You show them a couple things, you make them happy, you
Yeah.
make them feel good about it. My big role, I think, as a facilitator, is to make people not scared of it. I think when people think about Facebook, like, I don't want anything out there, and so
Get a little bit.
it's more like that.
Absolutely. So, what do you think the biggest fear for businesses or just individuals entering the space is? Is it that fear of that, like as you were saying up there, kind of that fear of we're just going to give over our control and everyone's just going to run with it? And
Well, I think there's a couple. One is I think there's just a natural fear of new things, which is just sort of like a core thing that every business deals with. But I think the bigger thing for me that I've sort of been identifying in the past, I would say like 2 years, is that what this actually does is it forces businesses to become publishers. And when you sit down with brands like I do as an agency guy, the first thing they'll tell you is we don't produce content, we're not publishers.
Yeah.
And my message is, actually, you're all publishers. And that's the sort of way of the world. So I think that's the, if you're going to sort of say what's the biggest hurdle is making a brand understand that advertising, marketing, communications is actually about being a publisher.
Yeah, being out there. That's excellent. Now, I have to kind of segue off that topic for a second, but just because I know I've talked in the past about some of the technologies you talked, and it's just speaking to when you put it the iPad photo today, and everyone's like, and you're like, this is what you're focusing on. What, how do you feel that technology? Although I thought your point of, and there's been many points of, really the technology, don't get caught up on that. But how do you see technology moving forward now? Do you see it more moving forward as the iPads of the world, or?
I don't know. So the iPad sort of threw a bit of a monkey wrench into the conversation because, really, for me, the smart thinkers have really identified that it's this amazing consumption device. And that's weird in a world where we're looking at devices that enable us to create.
Yeah.
It's sort of strange to think that the hottest thing is now back to being consumption. Like, are we that lazy? Sort of like wonder, are we like that? So I think that is a bit of it. I think the game-changing aspect for me is, the idea of untethering.
Okay.
Where it's not about, again, like we don't have wires. This is just like a MacBook that's not plugged in. Like we're able to do all this stuff. The more untethered we can move towards platforms and how people are, I think the more interesting it gets. So for me, it's less about, what does the device do? And is it a camera? Does it not? To the fact that it's highly untethered, very easy to use, and it's changing the ways in which we connect to one another.
Now, to segue off that, what do you feel moving into 2010 and then into 2011 from a social media aspect? Where do you see some of those technologies? Do you see Facebook's continuous growth? Do you see Foursquare all of a sudden becoming a force? Do you see something that maybe we should all be aware of, some insider information?
I'm the guy who saw YouTube and thought, why would anybody want to watch a 2x2 screen? This sucks. So no, I don't have any. I know actually that I don't know anything.
Yeah. That's good to know.
If I knew, I would probably, create it.
Yeah.
I think this idea of mobile, as I perceive it, to be untethering versus it being like a handheld SMS text thing, I think that for me is really location where people are focusing on the who, not the how many. So who am I connected to? What's the value in that? I think those are sort of like the interesting things. The challenge with it is going to be obviously figuring out the business models behind what does it look like. Like if a network is that valuable to 100 people, how does that work out? And so we'll see. I'm hopeful that going forward, what we find is really new advertising models that don't replicate what we've sort of seen today.
Now, there is one of the, I know some of the popular questions that I was asked to kind of ask you is for some marketers, and I don't know if you can answer, but what should they be telling their either businesses if they're an internal marketer or if they're an external marketer, like, if they have an agency?
I just think it's time to revisit the business strategy and really start defining the business objectives and looking at what you're doing. I think it's time to really get serious about the metrics that you're using, screensavers.
Yeah, I was going to say screensavers.
You need to run caffeine. You don't have caffeine?
I have caffeine. I forgot to turn it on.
So screensavers, I think that's the future.
Screensavers. That's what your strategy has to be around, is screensavers.
Looking at the metrics too, some of the stuff I talked about on stage, I'm very deeply inspired by a friend, Avinash Kaushik, who's the analytics evangelist at Google. And he's so right in the economic value of the company being tied to your marketing and your metrics is God.
Right.
And that really is where you find nirvana. And so, I really think that the time spent in thinking about the business side is well overdue.